Alright, so now let's just, we'll make a print of our drawing. So this is pretty close to where we left off, right? I mean, maybe you might still be in the print preview mode. All right, you can always scroll. You could always go back and forth just to see what it would look like when you print versus your working drawing. The one thing I need to do is I need to turn off my dimensions. Again, this is one of those cases where there's so many layers. Sometimes it's just easier to select an object, go to my properties, find out which layer it's in, right? So it's, in my case, it's layer annotation dimension 96. I can go to my layers, annotation dimension 96, and turn that off. Okay, so hopefully everyone has their drawings with the correct line weights and possibly hatches that are now set up. So to get this thing ready for printing, so across the bottom you should have a few extra tabs, one that says 11 by 17 landscape and 11 by 17 portrait. So what these are your basic printing pages, right? So for example, if you go to the landscape, mine is already set up, yours might be blank. But if you double click inside here, you should now be able to zoom in and out and find your drawing. If you double click again, now if you zoom in and out, you're zooming in and out of the 11 by 17 page. All right, so for those of you who are familiar with AutoCAD, this is called your paper space, right? Because this is your sheet of paper. By clicking inside, you're now in model space. Right? You're zooming in and out of your model space. So as best as you can, try to find some general location for your drawing and double click. So one thing that this is set up with, the reason why we're able to double click inside here and double click out, is there's this pink rectangle that's around the perimeter. That is essentially a special object called a detail. Let's see, it might be, yeah, it's, if you go back here to drafting, you can make a page that has a new layout with new details. And it's this detail that it's allowing us to look inside your model space. So it's the detail that will also allow us to change the scale of our object. Right, so I'm going to go to properties, I'm going to click on detail. And I'm going to pay attention to these numbers over here. Right? I just happen to get lucky and make the numbers actually match up. But this is where you actually change the scale of your drawing. So whenever you draw something in, so like our drawing that we've done in top view, we actually drew this out to true scale. Right? So these distances, say for example, this height is actually 20 foot 10. But it's when I come over here to my detail, this is where I actually change it to be, say for example, 1/4 inch drawing or 16th inch drawing. And where I get these numbers from is this PDF file. It's also, you should have access to this PDF file. So where these numbers come from, say for example, I want to do a drawing that is at a 1/4 inch scale, I have to make sure I type in this number 48, right? And where you get this number, this is just a very basic equation. So you have your fraction, which is x over y. You get your y number and you multiply it by 12 inches, or multiply it by 12. You get an answer, and you divide that answer by x, which is in your fraction, and you have your answer. Right? So for example, at a 1/4 inch scale, 4 times 12 is 48, divided by 1 is 48. So if you come over here to quarter-inch scale, there's 48. If you want 3-inch scale, 8 by 12 is 96, divided by 3 is 32. So you go to 3/8, here's 32. So these are some of your more basic scales that you use. But if you need a custom one, just use this this over here just to get your new answer. So based on these numbers, this is what I'm going to use. All right, so let's try a quarter-inch scale. All right, that's a more common scale that everyone uses. So quarter-inch scale, it says quarter-inch, 1 inch on layout equals 48 inches in model. So 1 inch in layout equals 48 inches in model. And make sure that in order to see this, you have to have the detail selected. Make sure you have that detail selected, properties, detail, and 148. And as long as I don't zoom in and out, as long as I'm just using like the hand tool, for example, the pan tool, I can move it around, double click again, and just double check that it still says 1 to 48. So now this drawing's at quarter-inch scale. Right? Obviously, it doesn't fit on the page. I need to change the scale. So I need to change it to something else. Another little shortcut where these numbers are located, in case you're curious, I'm going to go back to layers. And under annotation, they're also located right in here. Right, so for example, A annotation dimensions quarter-inch scale is 48. So the one we're going to be using, I believe to have this thing fit on the page, we'll probably do a 16th. Right, so 1/16 scale, 1 inch on the layout equals 192 inches in the model. Right, so again, it's also right here. A annotation dimension, 1/16 inch scale equals 192. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to click on my detail. Go to property, 11 by 17 layout landscape. Select this. Go to my properties. Make sure I'm on detail, and type in 192. And again, I can double click inside here and move this around. As long as I don't zoom in and out, I don't change my scale. I can get it to fit. Double click again, and now this drawing is at a 16th inch scale. And in your case, you probably down here at the bottom, it probably says your name. You can just click on it. You could either do a single click and hopefully this shows up. Right? You go to properties, text, and you can just change. You can just change this as you want. Or I believe you could also just double click, and you can just change it here. And just click outside. So now you should have this set up for your page. If you want to get another preview of what this looks like, the actual print will look like, you can come over here and click on print preview, just like we did in our top view. And it gives you an idea of what this will look like when you print this. Obviously, you could always turn print preview back off. And to actually print this, I'm going to go to File, Print. Just going to check a couple settings just to make sure that it prints correctly. You can print this directly to PrintSpot, or you can print it to make it into a PDF. I would recommend doing it into a PDF first, but you could always set it up to print directly to PrintSpot. Your size, you just want to make sure that this is also the same. So this is 11 by 17. Make sure you either do landscape or portrait, whichever one it's set up in. The output type, make sure it says vector. And output color, because we set everything up with print color, this is the way you want it to print. Display color is the way it looks like this without the print preview, and black and white just turns everything black and white. So again, just make sure it's on print color and print it. And that should be it for setting up this drawing on how to print and how to print.